Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now is my Forbes colleague, Rashi Srivastava. Rashi, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Brittany.
You have wrote a story about DeepSeek, a Chinese artificial intelligence company that has seemingly disrupted the international AI landscape in just the past week. So to kick off the conversation, what is DeepSeek?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, DeepSeek is an AI company that's based in Hangzhou, China. It released a model recently called the R1 model that is comparable and almost as good as OpenAI's O1 models, which is it's one of their latest and most advanced models that they've released.
I want to know exactly how it compares to U.S. competitors, like you said, OpenAI. How have industry experts been describing this compared to other AI technology currently in the market?
Yeah, absolutely. So the latest model, they've claimed trained this on just $5.6 million worth of GPUs and the training cost, which is significantly cheaper than what OpenAI's training costs have been, which for like the GPT-4 models, it's been as much as $100 million. And it's definitely sparked a reaction in Silicon Valley, and there's been a lot of excitement and a lot of anxiety as well about these models and what it means for the future of like training AI models and whether we need so much of funding and so much of money for them.
Rashi, I don't know about you, but when my friends are reaching out talking about a story saying what is X, Y, or Z, I know that is a story I need to be covering. That happened with DeepSeek this week. So I'm curious if you could tell us what the United States' AI community's reaction to DeepSeek has been. Were they completely blindsided like the rest of us were?
Yeah, I think you're right in the fact that they were blindsided, and the reactions and response have been a lot of anxiety as well as excitement from founders in this space, leaders in this space. When the model launched, the V3 model launched back in December, you saw it getting accolades from Andrej Karpathy, who is an OpenAI co-founder, who was saying that who really praised he praised the cost part of this, that they were able to build a model at such a smaller budget. It's also gotten accolades from everyone from Meta's chief AI scientist, Jan LeCun, NVIDIA's head of research, Jim Fan, and a number of other leaders in the community. OpenAI Sam Altman himself praised the model and said that it was extremely impressive for the pricing that they were offering the model for. It's important to note that not everyone is extremely impressed by this model. There are people in the community that are not extremely surprised or are impressed by the fact that they were able to build this model on such a small budget. For example, we spoke to Ryder CEO May Habib, who said that they've launched a model that's on par with OpenAI's GPT-4 model that was trained on just $700,000. And so there are definitely other companies out there that are doing this and trying to figure out ways to be more cost efficient, more compute efficient. But we're seeing that this definitely exciting. A lot of folks talking about it and posting their reactions and their takes on it. It's interesting to see how this is going to develop and play out.
And taking a step back from just the community, the stock market also reacted wildly to DeepSeek. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So with the stock market, NVIDIA on Monday lost $600 billion of market capitalization just as a reaction to the news about DeepSeek, as investors worried about whether like American AI companies have been spending way too much on training their most cutting edge models. So we saw that huge reaction. We saw a lot of other tech stocks also tumble down, including Microsoft and a bunch of other companies as well. It's important to note that the next day, which is yesterday on Tuesday, a lot of the stock bounced back, and NVIDIA got back about 40% of the market capitalization that it had lost.
It's interesting because it seemed like up until this week, the United States was really leading the charge when it came to AI. And now you're saying DeepSeek is comparable to other US AI companies. So are AI companies in the United States, is Silicon Valley itself changing its strategy at all when it comes to AI in light of DeepSeek?
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that we at Forbes have been looking at pretty closely. We've spoken to multiple founders in the AI space who've told us that this is certainly going to prompt a lot of AI labs to rethink their strategy on how they've been training their models. And a lot of companies have all started slotting in this model into their products, especially on the application layer. There's companies like U.com, Perplexity. Others have been experimenting with it and playing around with it just because of the cost benefits here for them. So this is definitely going to spark a lot of reactions. Some of the founders told us that they're going to see more pricing pressure on labs like OpenAI and Anthropic to reduce the prices of their model in a reaction to DeepSeek's latest model.
I cover politics mostly, so I've been covering the past week and a half just how busy President Donald Trump has been with his executive orders and other actions. But DeepSeek even caught his attention, and you mentioned this, but I want to read what he said. He said this, quote, "The release of DeepSeek, AI from a Chinese company, should be a wake-up call for our industries that we need to be laser-focused on competing to win." Will there be any legislation or action from Donald Trump or the Trump administration itself around DeepSeek?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a question that's still, it's still we've yet to see the answer to this, and it's still something that we've not heard anything about like changes in regulation, but there's definitely pressure, like political pressure and geopolitical pressure, because we've always been in this race with China, and with this new model that's definitely going to put more pressure on the companies.
You reported on some, quote, caveats to DeepSeek's latest achievements. Can you dive a little deeper in there? What are those?
Yeah, there are multiple researchers have reported and noticed that these models tend to censor content around sensitive topics in China, specifically like the Tiananmen Square events and questions about Xi Jinping. So there's definitely concerns about like whether this is a CCP propaganda arm, or if it's something that is censoring content that's definitely sensitive to China. And there's also concerns about data privacy and where our data might be stored if we're using DeepSeek's models. The DeepSeek has said that any data that you put into the model is going to be stored in data centers and servers in China. Some companies are trying to work around that, and they're saying we're going to run these models locally so that your data is going to be stored in U.S. Data centers. So that's something that folks have been like trying to work around that in that way.
As your team has really been covering in the past years, months, and even weeks, there have been some real national security concerns when it comes to TikTok because of its ties to China. Does DeepSeek face those same concerns?
Yeah. So at the end of the day, this is a Chinese model, and it definitely shows. A lot of researchers have pointed out that there are concerns around data privacy and where the data might be stored. Like, for instance, is it stored in servers in China, or what happens with our data if you feed it into the model, and when you're interacting with DeepSeek's model. As I mentioned before, there are also concerns around it censoring topics that are sensitive to the Chinese government. And in some cases, some researchers have posted about the model even starting to spew propaganda and inject things about the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, and other content related to China, even though the topic itself or the prompt itself had nothing to do with China in the first place. So there's certainly a lot of concerns there regarding to links with the Chinese government.
The AI race between the United States and China has been compared to the space race between the United States and the Soviet Union back in the 20th century. And it seemed like, as we've been talking about, the United States was way ahead. But with DeepSeek jumping onto the scene, it seems like China's really pulling close to the United States. So what does this do to the AI race between the U.S. and China?
Absolutely. I think it's more than US and China. That's definitely a significant part of the conversation. There's also a parallel discussion around open source versus closed source, because I think one of the biggest factors here is that this model is open source. It's free to use. Anyone can build on top of it, and it has some of the same like advanced reasoning capabilities that OpenAI's models have, which have been locked behind this $200 per month price that they're charging for their customers. So that's certainly one of the narratives that we're seeing right now. To your point about the race between China and the U.S., it's certainly it shows that the U.S. has been wanting to have be a leader in this space for sure, and it has been, but China is definitely not far behind, even though there have been export controls that have been asserted on in China, where obviously they have access to fewer NVIDIA chips. They've still managed to come up with a model that's as capable as some of the best models here by the American labs.
Rashi, I appreciate your reporting and our conversation today. I hope we can have many more soon. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much.